I played youth sports growing up. Honestly, I loved coaching the recreation side of softball versus the competitive side of softball.
Right.
So I entered the school, I believe, as a marketing major. Then I switched to a management major, and I really had no idea what I wanted to do with sports, or anything. I just knew I wanted to stay in sports. I continued working as a summer camp counselor and working with youth. Really enjoyed that.
Wellesley, right?
Wellesley, yep.
Wellesley. All right. We are live again. This is Craig LeBlanc, the doorman, with the Daily Parks and Rec Show. I have a special guest from Wellesley, Massachusetts. He's a proud father, house sitting, being a doctor with his daughter. So, Parks and Rec directors have to manage all sorts of exciting life, and then they go to career and they kind of do the same thing, work with youth 24/7. But Chad, thanks for coming on to the show. How'd your week go?
Absolutely, Craig. Yeah, it's been a pleasure. I was telling you earlier, I've had a sick daughter all week, so between managing that and the daily Parks and Rec life, it's been a challenge. But like you said, we usually have a couple balls up in the air at all times, so
Yeah.
get used to it.
Yeah, if there's any career that prepares you to handle chaos, it is Parks and Recreation.
100%. My boss at one time said the smartest thing I've heard in a long time, and that was, there's no other careers out there that honestly your career is based on 16-year-olds.
That's right.
So it's
right.
it's constant chaos, but it's rewarding in the end.
Yeah. All right. So maybe take us back to when you were in high school, who you were as a high schooler, and maybe through the lens of a high schooler potentially watching this video thinking that they may want to go into Parks and Rec as a career. So maybe you can describe yourself and then maybe even tell them what you were thinking back then and how you kind of got on this journey that you're on now into Parks and Rec.
Yeah, absolutely. So I grew up in upstate New York. Now, when I say upstate New York, everyone that's north of New York City calls it upstate New York. So I'm only about an hour. I'm about an hour north of New York City, but for us, it's upstate. So I grew up in there and just gravitated to sports. So played sports, watched sports, read about sports. So I always knew I had an interest in becoming something to do with sports. I think at that age, everybody's, I want to work for a pro team. I want to do this. I want to do that. I had no aspirations of becoming a professional athlete. I knew back in those days were gone. So, I think that was good. I started to look at what else is out there. And then around that time, about 16, I got a job as a summer camp counselor. And I started to work that, and I realized how much I enjoyed working with kids. It comes natural to me. It comes easy to me. And I enjoyed it. And I found that there's really kind of an intersection between the two, between the sports and working with youth. So I said, what can I do to kind of continue that and to keep it going? So I started looking at sport management degrees because it kind of encompasses a whole lot. So you can kind of do anything with a sport management degree. And I really had no idea what I wanted to do with sports or anything. I just knew I wanted to stay in sports. So I started looking for a sports management degree. I ended up at Western New England College, which is outside of Springfield, Mass. And actually started at the school. We didn't have a sport management major. So I entered the school, I believe, as a marketing major. Then I switched to a management major. And then my junior year, they added a sport management actual degree to the program. So I switched over to that. And really, like I said, just fell in love with it. Continued working as a summer camp counselor and working with youth. Really enjoyed that.
And how old were you at this time?
I was, let me see. So I started college at 17. So, this was the, early 20s.
Right. Oh, wow. Yeah. So you got exposed to it really quick. Now, what was your favorite part about working with youth sports? And when we say youth sports, we're just talking about what, swimming or baseball, soccer, football, stuff like that?
Yeah. So like for summer camp, it was a lot of that type of stuff. I think back then, camps were your traditional day camps, which is where you think of arts and crafts, sports, different stuff throughout the day. And then when I got into at Western New England, we started to get more into working with professional teams. So I worked with the New England Blizzard. They were part of the American Basketball League, which was the precursor kind of at the same time as the women's WNBA. So they were rival leagues that started up at the same time. They were based out of Hartford. We were in Springfield, so it was, we had a nice connection with the program. I kind of got my foot in the door over there with them, and it was a fantastic, phenomenal experience. I did a little bit of everything. Most of my stuff was in promotions. So I was one of the people who went up into the crowd and picked people to come down and do the half court shots things.
Wow.
But it was great. I did a ton of, we were a small office. It was a small association that was just starting. You were fighting against the WNBA with all their backing from the NBA. So everybody kind of pitched in and did a little bit of everything. So
Right.
it was great. You got to learn a lot of different aspects of that. And while I was doing that, I stayed there and worked one summer instead of going home for college. And I ended up working the summer camp that they had there. So a basketball camp for girls. And again, just kind of reinforced that joy and I have working with youth and that. And I think to me, for the youth sports, it's just kind of the amateur side of it, just the fun and enjoyment of it. I played youth sports growing up. I never kind of increased to the higher levels. I have my oldest daughter played softball, but then went into like AAU type softball, and you can see, there's definitely a difference between the two different things. And honestly, I loved coaching the recreation side of softball versus the competitive side of softball.
Right.
There's a lot more joy to it. Like for me, seeing a kid who gets the first hit of their life, and the huge smile that she has when she got to first base, and everyone's yelling, cheering, like that means more to me than a trophy at the end of the day. So that's yeah.
And maybe you can talk on this. There's so many great life lessons and life skills that you learn through athletics that teaches discipline, overcoming, internal pain, whether your heart's pounding, or I used to coach cross country, and you find your limits and your mind's always playing tricks on you. You have to overcome laziness. And this happens to every individual, regardless of if you have any genetics gearing you towards the collegiate level or the professional level, which is super rare, but it's not rare to overcome discipline and adversity in anybody that God gives you. So you can learn about dealing with pain, no matter if you're short, small, tall, old, young, and you learn that outside of these competitive environments that people are trying to make this their career. Majority of the population fits squarely in this rec and leagues that you're talking about. Maybe talk about the lessons that you see little kids learning.
Yeah, absolutely. And I have a daughter who does cross country, so I know all about the pain.
Oh my God.
Cross country stuff.
I don't care how fast you are. When you're giving it all you got, you're just as tired at a 6 or 5 minute mile as you are at a 10-minute mile.
100%. I stand next to the finish line a lot of times, and you watch them come right across the finish line and boom, fall right over.
They just fall out. And they could be the last person in the race or the first person in the race. They're equally exhausted.
100%. But I give them all the credit in the world, because I tell my daughter all the time, the only way I'm running that far is if someone's chasing me. So
that's right.
But yeah, in terms of like I think a lot of different skills, obviously leadership skills, you tend to see some kids within your programs start to gravitate to being a leader amongst their peers, whether, and the nice thing that I find in that is it's not always the best athletes that are the ones that are doing it. Honestly, I think the best captains are not always your best players. They're the kids that kind of exclude or I'm at a loss for words here.
I know the word you're thinking. It's like the kids that are left out, or the ones that
they're always making. Yeah, they bring the team together. So they're the ones that always make sure that things are going correctly. Everybody's on the same page. So leadership. I would say respect. I think there's a lot of that at the recreation level, where maybe you start to get away with that at the AAU level or the competitive level. Kids are out there. Most of them are just out there to run around and have fun. And honestly, I think the social part of it is so important nowadays, where we've moved to such a generation that is stuck on their phones or their iPads. And, you have these kids who this is kind of
right.
their only social aspect with kids. So, and it's great to see the top athletes and maybe somebody who's not an athlete at all kind of blend together and go, hey, we have a lot in common outside of sports, and we can be friends and like that.
Right.
So I've always preached sports as, just a great way to really build the leaders.
Yeah. Well, I mean, each of us have a body, and you really find yourself when you push that body. It's a certain part of your mental health. If you have a healthy body, the muscles kind of excrete all kind of healthy hormones into your body when you're using them. And so a lot of times, especially with this sedentary lifestyle where you're sitting a lot, screen time, it's so important to get out and move your body. And it's not necessary to be some pro athlete. It's probably more important if you're not a pro athlete to move your body. Because
yeah, absolutely, 100%. I like, you can see in the gray in my beard. I'm a little bit on the older side. So, back in my day, it was you come home from school. You put your stuff away. You maybe do your homework. You go find your friends. You ride your bike, or you'd walk to your friend's house.
Oh my gosh, yes.
You guys would play until the street lights came on, and then you'd go home, you'd eat, you do your homework, go to bed, and that was kind of like an everyday thing. And then the weekends, at least for me, because I was involved in sports, it was sports all day long, pretty much. You're either at a sporting event or watching a friend's sporting event, watching sports. So I think we've gotten away from that. You don't see a lot of that anymore. So I think, it's so important for the kids to kind of put those electronics away and get outside. And that's again, part of this field that I'm in now, this recreation and parks. That's why it's so important to have these facilities, these areas where people and kids can get out there and recreate and keep themselves, both physically and mentally healthy.
Yeah, I remember, and gosh, I wish kids would have this experience that we had as our childhood. But I rode my bike 15 blocks to school, chained it up, went to a little Catholic school down the street, and then we had to bring our football pads because we would ride our bike to the park. And we'd have a kid on the handlebars and a kid on the back, and we'd ride all the way, have football practice. But we were our own transportation.
Yeah. Yeah.
I could have taken the bus, but I never did. And we would come back just smelling like a wet dog after all this.
They drink water out of the hose, and
oh yeah,
we're all still here.
Right. I wish we had more of that going on, but you still give them the opportunity to do this summer. And so tell us more about the programming that y'all have, as far as what does the summer program look like? And then what does your league ball look like, or rec ball?
Yeah, so for us, we being in a municipal recreation department, we kind of do a little bit of everything. Actually, the slogan, I don't know if you can see it on our thing, is something. It's something for everyone. That's the slogan.
Oh yeah.
And it is. And it is. And, we do programs for 6 months up to 99 years old, So, yeah, we're doing stuff all throughout the day, all throughout the evenings, all throughout the afternoons. And it's just giving people opportunities to meet others, do things, learn things. So for us, obviously a big part of recreation departments are your summers. I oversee all the summer camps for our town. We have a pond that our department manages in the summer. We have a different part of our department that handles that. So, people, you don't realize how much planning and work goes into behind the scenes of the summer camp. A lot of people think, hey, summer camp starts in June and that's when we start working on it. But no, it's a year-round thing, and you're always tweaking and finding things, or going to seminars, or going and learning different aspects, and trying to just make the programs the best that you can and give the kids opportunities. Like I said, you don't find those things where a couple kids would just go and go to the park for the afternoon and play wiffle ball and hang out, and and then at the end of the day they go home. So it's giving them structured activities, but also giving them the sense of some freedom as well.
Right. Yeah, and it does take a lot. In a former life, I was a Kentucky cheerleader, and we worked for UCA during the summer. And these summer camps, we would start at like 6 o'clock in the morning, and then we would have social activities with everybody till probably 2 o'clock in the morning. And so for those 4 days, putting on these camps were just so exhausting. And the kids just kind of show up for a section of it, but there's so much front end and back end. And even though we were front facing, so we were, I guess you call us the camp counselors, there was a whole staff that just set up meals and all the other stuff that went along with it, and scheduling all the stuff, and where the little girls would stay and stuff like that. And so there's a tremendous amount of work that goes into putting any kind of youth activity during, in a camp atmosphere. Gosh, if you haven't been involved in that, it is like managing chaos and herding cats all at the same time.
100%, both at the same time.
No.
It never stops. A lot of people get to summer and it's like, oh, this is my quiet, this is my quiet time. And for rep people in rep parks and recreation, at least like in the Northeast, because for us it's winter half the time. So for us, like summer, everything explodes. So you're in for kind of 3 months of chaos.
Right.
So you just get those 3 months, and then then hopefully the rest of the year kind of just goes.
And then we used a lot of high schoolers as our counselors, so it's almost like herding cats with older cats. I mean, I love the camp counselors and stuff. Maybe tell us a little bit about what it's like to be a high school camp counselor, or somebody just maybe 19, 20 years old.
Yeah. So actually, like you said, most of our counselors are between kind of say the ages of 16 and 21. So you're talking freshmen, sophomores in high school to freshmen, sophomores in college.
Yeah.
This is honestly something that I've been involved in a lot. I've attended a lot of seminars, webinars, group meetings and stuff. And everyone is kind of struggling with the same boat. And that is, the behavior of kids has gone in kind of a negative direction, whether it's been COVID or what it is. Overall, there's been a lot of negative move. And it's challenging to ask these 16, 17-year-old kids to deal with a lot of things that they are not equipped to deal with yet.
Right.
So
right.
It's being comfortable enough that you put them in a position where they feel comfortable. And that's the biggest challenge that we have right now. And that's why I think you see a lot of these camps along with us. Like what we're trying to do is introduce a lot of your social, so they call it MESH. It's mental, emotional, social health. And,
I like that.
And what it is, it's moving from your traditional, when you think of summer camp, you think of, like I said, dodgeball and arts and crafts, and maybe you swim and things like that. Well, it's incorporating more things. So into your daily activities, it's talking, about feelings or leadership skills or things like that. It's doing games that revolve around teamwork and different aspects. It's working with parents and other people to see, what challenges kids have before they come to camp and how we can best support them before they come to camp. It's making sure that your 16, 17-year-old kids are caring for themselves. That's, I think, one of the toughest things. One of my favorite stories to tell, and it happens every single year, is I'll get a 16-year-old kid who's never worked camp before, and the second day of camp, they'll come to me and go, I went home and went to bed at 5:30 last night. I go, yeah, I get it. Right. It's challenging, for our camps, we're like 8 to 5.
Right.
If you do so, for a lot of these kids, they don't, it's a school day, but it's nonstop.
Right.
And like I said, there's a lot of different challenges that these kids are dealing with nowadays. So it's trying to find the tools to better equip them to handle all the things that are coming their way.
Yeah. And I think, outdoor activity, sports activity, summer camps and stuff like that is even more important than it ever was during our age, because I don't know about you, but I was kicked outside every day, Sundays included. And was told to come back in when the sun went down, just because they wanted us out the house. Maybe I was a little aggravating as a kid or something like that. And so I would literally see all my friends on the streets, and we would just ride bikes and go grab them and stuff. And so with a lot of that being kind of deleted, and so much of of the social activity being online. I think with the work you're doing is even more important than it was back when we were younger.
Yeah, absolutely. We're really starting to you're filling those roles, or you're filling those gaps that the kids aren't getting in the summer. I'm actually yesterday and today there's a group, the National Summer Learning Academy, and they're doing a summer planning boot camp webinar the last 2 days, and it's talking about just all the different aspects and things that we can do for kids, and whether it's STEM or arts or sports
Mhm.
or writing, well, whatever it may be, because not every kid is the same. I
Right.
think that's why you see a lot of these specialty camps now. So you have camps that are dedicated to sports or theater or swimming or this or that. And I still think it's those old fashioned recreation camps like us, or those overnight camps
Mhm.
that are still the way to go, in my opinion. Because, I think you
Oh,
get
I
a
love
well
those.
rounded, but you get a well rounded part of it. Because, like I said, we try not to just be what we typically call playground program, which is just, hey, we could basically watch you stay and play on a playground while we're just standing there watching you,
Right.
or let's try to see what we can introduce. And I think that's when kids come away with those life memories.
Oh, absolutely.
I can still remember things of when I was a kid, and at camp, and the counselors' names and what counselors did. And I just want to make sure that I'm a part of that going forward. And these kids that are coming up through our programs nowadays, they have the ability to be, have the same kind of things that I was able to achieve.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and it's funny how we seem to be more aware of our kids' needs when it comes to mental health, emotional health, social activity. I don't think I heard those words when I was little. I'm not sure, maybe that was out of the vocabulary of my parents, but I don't think I ever heard the word mentioned, a kid's emotional, mental health or social activity.
No,
But today it's such a regular part of our speech.
100%, 100%. Like back in the day, it was just, oh, that kid, they're rambunctious, or they're this, or they're
That's it.
that. They
That's
can't
it.
sit still. Hey, go run around the track for a little bit and you come back. But
Yeah.
nowadays, like I said, we try to, and there's so many great people out there, and so many great organizations and trainers, things out there that are spreading the knowledge. And like one of the things that I'm really trying to do is bring that mesh into the municipal recreation side.
Mhm.
Obviously, with the overnight camps, it's a lot easier. A lot of these kids, you have them for a full day. You
Mhm.
have them for multiple weeks. You have them for overnight. So you can get these connections with these kids, and go in depth and deal with a lot more things.
Mhm.
For some of our summer camps, we may have a kid for 5 days and then never see him again for the rest of the summer. So how
Alright.
do how do you maximize those 5 days of what you have with them? But also you also want to keep it fun. So you want to make sure that they're enjoying themselves while they're there. So one of the things that we're looking at this year is, do we make it a less structured environment? So, I think a lot of camps are, 9 to 10, you do this, and 10 to 11 is this, and 11 to 12, you do that. And I think we've heard from some of the kids. It's like, wow, this is like school. Like we have this, and then this, and then this. So one of the things we're going to try to do this year is offer some more free scheduling blocks, which is basically, hey, here's 5 different activities that you can choose from within this
Oh,
hour. What
nice.
would you like to do? Where would you like to
Right.
go? A lot of camps already do this. It's something that we haven't done yet, that we're looking at, but it's giving the kids a say. And I think that's one thing that we hear a lot from this generation of kids, is they want to be heard.
Mhm.
They want to have a seat at the table, per se. So
Yeah.
whether it's our staff, and including them in scheduling or thoughts or ideas on camp, to the kids, hey, what do you guys want to do? What would you like? Do you want the freedom to be able to do those type of things, or do you want us to tell you, bang, 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 this is where you're going at certain times? So
Mhm.
I think the one thing about camps for me is it's constantly changing.
Right.
What and we have the ability to change it kind of on the fly. If something's not working, we can say, okay, well, like for example, we've struggled with the cell phone policy for kids.
Mhm.
Whether or not they can have them at camp. There's some parents that are for it, some parents against it, some counselors for it, some counselors against it. We tried it last year, didn't really work at first, so we kind of had to adapt it a little bit, and switch it up and look at it again this year. So,
Mhm.
like a lot of different jobs, there's, like you said earlier, there's a lot of balls in the air at any given time, and
Oh, right.
so
Right.
you know,
Yeah, it's and this might be a good point to talk about this in the conversation. I had a guy named Chad Parker. He was a he works for the Atlanta Braves, and so they had something called Braves Country. And I met him at the MRPA, that's the Mississippi Recreation and Park
Yep.
Association, and they were noticing as Major League Baseball that they were losing kids in high school. And these were some of the best kids in the sport because they were so burnt out with this super competitive travel ball. They actually didn't even get to play other sports competitively. They were so focused on one sport all through grade school. And by the time they got to high school, they didn't want to see another baseball
No.
in their life. They were done. They weren't going to college for it. And these were future D1 athletes, potential Major League Baseball. And so the Braves kind of saw this and was like, what do we do? And their solution came from park and rec directors saying, you need to let these kids be kids and have them play other sports. And they started interviewing all their other Major League baseball players. And that's exactly what their path was. They were swimmers, basketball players, all these other sports in addition to baseball. And when they got to play baseball, it was fun now. It wasn't just nonstop, nothing but baseball. If you don't win, then you're a loser kind of stuff. And so I think that what you're doing is important also for those super athletic kids that might be gifted, for them to just take a break and be a kid for a minute. Maybe you can speak on, because you're in charge of that side of it versus the opposite end, which is like maybe travel ball.
Yeah, absolutely. So I couldn't agree with more with you on that. I've seen so
Mhm.
many kids get burned out, and I it's tough because you see the kids have the love of the game, but it's tough for
Mhm.
them. So the rec side of it is really, you see these kids, they just want to go and play with their friends. They just
Right.
want to have fun. They don't want to have the stress of anything on their backs. They just want to go and be a kid and have fun. And I think by giving them the opportunity to do a couple different sports too, there's traits that you learn in certain sports. You're going to learn different traits as a cross country runner because it's more focused on yourself than it is as, say, a basketball or baseball team where you're working
Mhm.
together as a team to achieve something. So I think that is such a huge drawing point. I think you get down to the physical side too. There's different sports work different muscles, and you lose different part of your brains for different types of things. So I think we've moved so far away from just letting kids be kids
Mhm.
that, and it's tough for me because, like I said, I have a daughter who played travel softball for 10 plus years.
Mhm.
She's in college now. She works for the she wants to be an athletic trainer, so she's working for the college with the girls softball team. So it's, for me, it's tough because I enjoyed that side of it, but then the number of kids that she played with that didn't move on and keep that as a goal of theirs once they got into college, because they realized it's just, hey, this is too much.
Mhm.
I want to be in college, or I want to be in high school, and I want to do stuff with my friends. And, like, I'm an avid reader. So, hey, I want to read a book at the end of the day versus, going to the gym for 2 hours. So, and it's
Mhm.
not to put anything against those kids who are driven to do that, that just, I think we have to give the ability of kids to make up their own choices a little bit
Yeah.
more than we do nowadays. And sports, I think, is one of the best ways to get through
Yeah.
that. And definitely the recreation side.
So when are we doing like a summer camp for adults where we can go be kids and place?
They have them out there. They have them out there right now. There are summer camps out
Yes.
there for adults. They've actually gained a lot of popularity in the last couple of years.
Really? What?
Oh
Who
yeah.
does that? Who do you know, or is there a park system that we could highlight that
Oh
does? Because I
man.
think that's probably the more important time for you to be
Yeah.
not just like I think athletics, sports, movement should be more than just exercise, which is kind of what a gym is. You put your headphones on and you're just like plowing it out, whatever, getting your workout in out of maybe guilt or to stay in shape. Totally different when you're meeting some friends to go play basketball and you're in your 50s or 40s or
Yeah.
60s or tennis. It's night and day different. You're still getting the exercise, but it's more of a social activity.
Yeah. I want to say they're out west or down south. I feel so. I think what you find with recreation departments here in the Northeast, we're a little bit more siloed. So we're more to just a town. So
Mm,
pretty much every town has its own recreation department. And as towns get bigger, the sizes get bigger, you do more things, but
Mm-hmm.
you look down south and out west, and they're massive departments. They're county-wide departments. So you're doing, a lot more activities, a lot of more with more people. So I think some of those camps are out that way, but yeah, they are definitely out there and they are gaining popularity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the best form of exercise. If you can, and I tell you, I used to play ultimate frisbee, and you run your tail off when you play that sport, and you're not even trying to run; you're just trying to catch the dang thing.
Yeah.
And then you're like cursing yourself later that night.
Yeah, we have an ultimate frisbee group that uses our gym all summer. I mean, all winter long. It's an adult group. They come in, they
Yeah.
play ultimate frisbee. I know our high school has just recently started up an ultimate frisbee high school team. So
Mm-hmm.
again, it's. I think you get caught sometimes in the mainstream of sports. So it's basketball, baseball, soccer, football, and that's it. And then there's so much else out there that kids have an interest in and stuff. So again, it's trying to get, like our slogan, something for everybody. It's trying
Right.
to get as many kids involved, and
Right.
it's not always on the sports side too. Like I said, my daughter played sports, and now she's moved on to kind of assisting. So there's so many things within sports that you may don't have to be a player. You may be good at coaching. You may be good at organization. You may be good at mathematics. Statistics are a huge part of sports now. So it's just, I think sports is just a great thing for everybody because it brings so many people into different aspects.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of at Parks and Recreation. It's kind of encompasses a little bit of everything. I think a lot of us, we're the fiber of communities. We do a lot. We know the people in the community. We're a place where, people come to socialize, learn, get healthy, be healthy. So,
Oh yeah. Yeah. So I think I'd like to take a little industry. We're going to call this an industry commercial break, which is we're trying to raise awareness among high schoolers and college kids about this industry,
yeah.
choosing it as a career path. Chris made us a little commercial, so I'm going to play it. And if you go onto our YouTube channel, we have a playlist just for high school and college kids that might be working in your summer camp. And so during orientation, when you're preparing them, a lot of time this is their first job ever.
Yep.
And many of these are juniors, and that's the year that you start picking your college and choosing your major. So what a perfect time for you to press play on one of these videos we created. And then you might be the deputy director, the superintendent, whatever. And you can give a little testimony about what it's like to work in Parks and Rec. And I think that's kind of the grassroots level where we're working with the kids in high school, especially juniors, and maybe just planting seeds out there so that this career path is not found later in life, but is actually sought after from an early age. So I'll go ahead and play it, and then me and you can talk about that.
Absolutely.
All right.
Your career, your community, your legacy. Welcome to the Daily Parks and Recreation Show. Today, we're diving into one of the most rewarding and impactful career paths out there, Parks and Recreation. Are you unsure about your career path? Don't worry, we've all been there. But here's a thought. What if you could build a career that combines your love for the outdoors, creativity, and community impact? Did you know colleges like Indiana University, NC State, and Texas A&M offer Parks and Recreation degree programs? These courses prepare you for exciting careers, from urban park design to event planning, and even environmental conservation. Careers in Parks and Recreation are as diverse as they are impactful. You could become a park manager, ensuring green spaces are accessible and beautiful, a recreation coordinator, organizing community events and sports leagues, an urban planner, designing parks that bring neighborhoods together, or even an environmental specialist, protecting natural resources for future generations. Parks and Recreation isn't just a career, it's a way to create lasting change. Whether it's through managing a local park or leading a conservation project, you're making a real difference. And here's the best part. Parks and Recreation is for everyone. Whether you love planning, designing, leading, or conserving, there's a role for you in this exciting field. Choosing Parks and Recreation means choosing a career full of purpose, passion, and possibilities. And you don't have to have all the answers right now. Just take that first step. Ready to get started? Explore programs at universities like Michigan State, Clemson, or the University of Utah. Discover the career that's waiting for you. Are you passionate about the outdoors? Curious about a career that makes a real impact? Or maybe you just love learning how parks and recreation bring communities together? Then it's time to subscribe and follow the Daily Parks and Rec Show.
All right. So maybe you can, by the way, I think that was you teaching in one of those videos.
Might have been. that was fantastic. That was, if I was a high school kid right now, I would say, where do I go? And I'm going to tell you where you can go. So one of the things, one of the groups that I joined this year was the Young Professional Network, the YPN.
Oh,
Network,
yes.
Through NRPA. So we have a National Park and Rec Association, which is a phenomenal association. Amazing people doing amazing things to support us in the field. And we have a subgroup of that, which is the YPN. And one of the things when I joined YPN this year, and the goal of YPN is really to help young professionals that have just started out in it. So it's designed to be for people that are 5 years or less in the field. And then you have a couple of dinosaurs like us who have been in it forever. And it's, for us to kind of help them along the way and offer suggestions, tips, trainings, webinars, all these type of different things. But one of the goals that I've had this year is to include college kids to start. So what we've been doing is reaching out to a lot of college kids, college universities, professors, and inviting them. We have a Facebook group. We do monthly meetings. So inviting them to be a part of this. It's been phenomenal. We've, I think, doubled our size. We've got, we offer, it's a free opportunities for kids. There's no fee to join or anything. And they're able to go on and they can go on and listen to professionals in the field talk. Sometimes we're talking about the park size. Sometimes it's recreation. We have a book club coming up. So we keep it kind of fresh and different. But that's one of the things I felt that we need to draw more of the college kids in that are going to be stepping in to the field when we're leaving. And then also the high school kids. So one of the things I'd thrown out a question on LinkedIn one day, and I said, is there any mega donor, a mega database of where you can go for a park and recreation degree? And the great people at NRPA said, we have one.
Nice.
So on the NRP website under YPN, there's a spreadsheet, and I think it's some 300 to 400 colleges in the United States that you can go and get a parks and recreation degree.
All right. We have to collaborate on that. You're not going to believe this. So for those of you who don't know, let me catch everybody else up with me and Chad's relationship. We found each other somehow on LinkedIn. He agreed to come on. We spoke back in January. Yeah. And I started this channel like in late November. So he was one of the first guys I had spoken to. Well, since then, I've spoken to almost 200 park and rec directors. And I met a girl named Gabby and a girl named Molly, who have both been on my show. They're heading up YPN and in charge of marketing. And last week, we're making a little team focused on YPN. And this show airs at noon, Monday through Friday. We're going to pick one of those days to do a weekly show in place of what we're doing right now, just for YPN. And so we have to collaborate on this because
100%. So Gabby Vera, I'm guessing, is who you're speaking about. Gabby heads the marketing part of the YPN, which I'm also a part of. And then I'm guessing you're talking Molly Keys, who's the president right now. So yeah, those are two people I work hand in hand with in YPN. They are phenomenal people. You can't learn a lot more than what they can teach you. And they've been great helping us lead the group. And they've been so open to helping and just helping me along the way and kind of celebrating what we're trying to do. And it's all, like I said, it's all about getting more information out there to people. And it's not even just high school kids and college kids. There's people in their fields right now in 20s and 30s that don't maybe not enjoy what they're doing. So there's opportunities for them to say, oh, hey, I can go back and potentially get a degree in this or a certificate in this and maybe get into a different field. One of the other things that we've been pushing is including other type of students. So I've been reaching out to marketing students in all these different universities and say, hey, have you ever thought about a career in parks and recreation? Because, as we talked about, social media has become such a huge part of what we do nowadays. And you have a lot of people like me who are very limited in what we could do. It's a lot of clip art flyers, so having kids who have a background in graphic arts and marketing and having them come in and say, hey, have you ever thought about this as a career? So inviting those kids in, inviting kids who, are in education, things like that. Hey, have you ever thought about a career in parks and recreation? There's a lot of tie-ins amongst the thing.
Right.
That's the main focus, of the group. And it's been a phenomenal group to be a part of.
Yeah. And on that note, if you do need some help with social media management, that is one of the ways that we've figured that we can support this channel is some of our social media managers, because we are a media company specifically geared towards Parks and Rec. I knew I had to hire a social media manager, a video content creator, a distributor, an editor. And so we have these on staff, and a couple of cities that said, well, hey, why don't we'll give us a shot at managing our social media. And now they have somebody like you're describing, a young person that's in charge of social media. But typically what that person doesn't have is about $600 a month worth of subscriptions to all these editing and distribution softwares. That's just the tools they need monthly to do their job. And so what we're doing is we're kind of partnering to where that person will take pictures and live footage of the events and, the recreation and the summer camp programs. And then they feed it to our video editing team and social media management team. And so they kind of capture the content. And then we do the posting, the managing, the editing, that kind of stuff. And it's a really good partnership that we're like, never saw this as a way we were going to fund the Daily Parks and Rec show, but it's working out that way.
Well, like I said, it's become such a huge part of what, of recreation in society in general, but a huge part of recreation, 5 years ago, you used to have the program brochure that you would come up with, and you'd print 20,000 copies of it, and it'd get mailed to every household in the town. We've moved away from that. We're strictly online with our stuff. A lot of communities have gone that direction.
Yeah, you really have to.
You have to, and there's so much content out there nowadays, and you're getting bombarded by so much content. It's how do you get your word out, and how do you get your contact out or information out so that it's seen, and that's so challenging. So that's where I think rec departments turning to, some of these people who have better talents in this stuff, or, more experience in working in these fields. It's growing our departments so that, they can let us grow and get the word out of the things that we're trying to do.
Yeah. I mean, okay. So I'll give you a good example on that. So Chris is one of our very talented video creators. He just made that video we just watched. Let's just say he was working for, you say there's so much competition, there's so much content on there, but remember all of the people representing all this content that we're speaking about, none of them have a park system competing with you. There's only one park system in your city, and they have a monopoly on the parks, the senior centers, anything to do with Parks and Rec. There's not like 5 competing park systems inside of a city. There's just one. And if you're out there making content, it's such an advantage to have a brick and mortar system that's a legacy system that's got staff, that's tax funded, that's already got programming, and that's what you're promoting. So Parks and Rec might not be as good at the social media game, but they've got what all social media content creators would die to have, which is a real brick and mortar staffed system to promote. So if you guys ever figure it out and really get up to speed with that, y'all are going to dominate the content creation space, which is exactly what we saw, is that there's no media company for Parks and Recreation. And I saw that need, and I'm like, we got to make one just to tell this story. And of course, in Parks and Rec fashion, my director friend said, awesome idea. You should do it, Craig. And I'm like, wait.
Yeah. No way. I just come up with the ideas. Somebody else needs to do them.
But here I am, and I'm enjoying it. I'm glad Shonda Smith, she was the director in Mobile, Alabama. She talked me into it.
No, this is great. Like as soon as you reached out to me, and I'd seen some of your stuff on LinkedIn before, and as soon as you reached out, I said, "Oh, this is a no-brainer." Like I love what this is doing. I know there's a couple other social media stuff out there for us, but there's no real network for us to get the information out there. And whether it's doing something weekly, monthly, daily, it's just getting the word out about what we do and the good, positive things that we do. In the environment. So thank you for all that you're doing to help us get the word out.
Yeah, well, it seems natural. I imagine everybody was in newspapers before TV. But the first channel was, if I had to guess, it was politics, because that's such a big topic that we get so passionate about. And then you saw like ESPN and sports, and there were entire networks dedicated to just sports, and then MTV and so music and stuff came along. But now that the production costs are so cheap compared to what like CNN headquarters in Atlanta would cost, you truly can have an entire media company dedicated to the industry of parks and recreation. And you can have all the categories that we talk about in YPN and in NRPA. So you can have a category for youth sports, for directors, for aquatics, for YPN, and basically just create a channel for this industry. And there's so much good content that I'm unearthing as I'm interviewing y'all. So I mean, y'all have a gold mine here. This is going to be a blast to make this for y'all. So I appreciate the opportunity.
No, and I think one thing that you'll find, and I'm sure you've found it, the people in the Parks and Rec field in the community are some of the greatest people.
Yes,
they are so. They're just great people. That's the best way I can describe them. They're so willing to help out. There's not that sense of competition. If you're a town recreation department next to another town recreation department, there's a willingness to help out and share ideas and share information. I throw stuff out on LinkedIn. I'm very active on LinkedIn now. I throw stuff out there and I get hit with all these different ideas and suggestions and things. And, a lot of it, that goes to a personal level, and people get to know you and care about you and check on you and things. So it's such a great group of people in the community, and we're all working together for one thing. And that's really just, it's honestly to make the world a better place and to give, opportunities to people and to give them things to be positive about.
And I don't know if y'all were good people when y'all got here, or if working in the industry makes you a good person, because you are whether you like it or not, when you step into this industry, you've committed yourself, whether you know it or not, to a life of service, to building community, to helping out the elderly, to helping out the little kids, to doing summer camp, to doing after school care. And I don't think you can do this long without having that servant's heart just stirred up inside of you. You see the impact, and it has to change you. So even if you were a selfish person when you came in, there's something about running a senior center or running a summer camp that just molds you into what we see as our Parks and Rec professionals.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, you can have the roughest day at summer camp, but you see a kid that leaves with a huge smile on his face and says, Dad, hey, I had the best day of my life today. I mean, I couldn't ask for that in any other field. And I don't know if I'd get that in any other field.
Yeah, you haven't lived until you've coached a team of kindergartners or first graders. When you go coach them, talk about lighten your load a little. It's a blast.
Oh yeah, 100%. Like I said, I will always preach the side of recreation and the recreation sports, but anything to do with recreation, whether it's taking a drawing class or those type of things, you remove the competition, you remove the pressure, and you let kids just be kids, and you can see some just amazing aspects of that.
And that really is important for your adult health as well. Working with kids, especially working. I had interviewed yesterday. Let me see who it was. I want to mention him. Shout out to, was it Steve? Yeah, Steve Lawson. He came up through, so kind of how you went into rec. His first job as like literally 22 years old was to be in charge of a senior center. Mm-hmm. And he said, man, I sat under this 80-year-old wisdom for 6 years, and I can't tell you how these people just poured into me. and he dealt with death. He attended, I think he said 10 or 15 funerals. And these are people he had relationships with, and they just passed away. It's the first time he had to deal with death, and he started to miss them and stuff. So, I mean, talk about this industry molds you at all ages. There's so much. If that's interesting to you, and you want to put yourself in that kind of environment, I don't know of another environment that's even out there that could compete with this.
100%. And for me, I've been around long enough. So you if you're in a certain town for long enough, you see kids who were in your summer camp then become counselors within your summer camp, maybe even then, become, residents of the community that you're in, and then their kids go to your camp. So it's it's challenging, but it's an extremely rewarding profession.
Let's talk about that a little, because I had another guest, and he was bragging about, I have 8 directors in my legacy in my coaching tree. And so there is this sense of pride when you see kids and young adults come up underneath you, and then their kids come back, or they choose to work in the industry, or you're a director and then they become a director of a little smaller town, or a deputy, or anything like that. Maybe talk about that culture inside the Parks and Rec community.
Yeah, I think you get bitten with the bug once you get in. I think there's a lot of kids who get into it looking at it as just a summer job. And there's a great project that's going around right now. It's with the American Camp Association. It's called Project Real Job. And what it is to get these kids to kind of shift their focus of these summer positions, that these can be careers down the line, and to look at these things and to treat them like you would if you were going into a career versus you're just here for 8 weeks of the summer. So that's one big aspect of that we are trying to push. I just lost my train of thought there for a second.
Well, just how there is a legacy among park professionals.
Yeah, I think you see that. You see a couple different things. You see the younger generation will maybe stay 5 or 10 years in a certain community, and then they'll go to another community. They typically go from, say, a program coordinator to an assistant director to a director. You see people like me and my generation kind of stayed for a little bit longer in town. So it's wasn't unlikely to see a director who'd been there for 30, 40 years. And like you said, it's rewarding. And one of the things we told the kids in our staff interviews this year and with our staff is, it's okay if you move on from us from here. Our job is to give you the best situation you can while you're here, but to give you the tools so that when you go someplace else, they can look back and go, oh, they were really well, trained, or they were really were ready for this type of role. So we tell the kids all the time, like, it's okay. Like, we're preparing you for the real world. And that's that whole Project Real Job. We're preparing you for the real world. So as much as you hate to lose good kids or good counselors or good directors, it's rewarding, because they're going into other communities and other environments, and they're spreading that that tree and making it stronger all the way around.
Right. Yeah, you definitely are preparing them for the real world, and especially if you choose to have a career in Parks and Recreation, you are going to face challenges that you have never faced before. There are so many things that are far outside your comfort zone. Certainly, you'll come in with some level of expertise if you came from sports, or if you came from graphics design or accounting or some type of park leadership, but there's like 30 other things that you have no exposure to that parks demands that you get decent.
And that's on any given day.
And you're like, how is this my responsibility? But you're the one that's got to handle it. And that stretches you. And it's so healthy for an adult to be stretched to do things that they're not comfortable with or have never done before, but they're the only one there to figure it out. And this industry is so good at challenging everyone that works in it.
Yeah. And I think that's so important is expanding your horizons and going out of your comfort zone. I can tell you 6 to 8 months ago, the thought of me doing a radio show with somebody would terrify the life out of me. Because I just wasn't that type of person. I love being in Parks and Rec, but I was always comfortable being in the back. and being, I was comfortable being that person in the back of the room, listening, but never raising my hand to ask questions or say comments. And I have to give, a shout out to my wife, Gina, who, who kind of has expressed that really pushed me to become more kind of out there and involved. And my first big kind of jump was into LinkedIn and getting more active on there, and meeting people, and now connecting with people, and finding myself coming, more open and more willing to do situations like this or talk in meetings. So like I say, it's never too old to teach never too late to teach an old dog new tricks. So that's, that's one of the biggest parts too.
Yeah, I would say that it goes in life. If you're on the fence about coming on the show and telling us about Parks and Recreation and what would I say kind of stuff, it's been my experience that when I interview people and when I talk to people, if we're on a topic that they are passionate about, they'll never shut up about it. Let's say we're talking about, I'm embarrassed, but then we start talking about football, and all of a sudden all that goes out the window, and they can talk for 6 hours on fishing, football, wherever their heart's at. So if your heart is in Parks and Rec, just trust your heart knows exactly how to tell you what it loves, and it has no problem expressing that. Now, if you were asked to do a talk on aquatics and you hate aquatics, and so you have an aquatics manager that does it, and you stay, or say accounting, and you stay far away as you can from accounting.
Yes, 100%.
But if you love Parks and Rec, just trust your heart knows exactly how to tell the world what it's in love with. No problem. So hopefully that kicks some of you over the edge to come tell us what this is like being in Parks and Rec.
Well, and it's so important nowadays, everybody's up against something and challenging, and funding is challenging and things like that. So it's so important for us in our, in our field to get out there and advocate for parks, for inclusion, just what our departments are doing and how much we serve the communities and what we do. So giving us a chance to amplify, what we have to say is a gold mine to us.
And maybe we can end on that, because God, I can't believe we're already at 55 minutes. But it is important for you to be as articulate and as confident as possible in explaining the value of Parks and Rec in your community. You need to be a good representative of your community to your elected officials, to your funding sources, to your stakeholders. And so it's like anything else, practice. The more you practice a skill or anything else, you just get more comfortable. The fear falls away. There's nothing like just jumping to get you over the fear of falling or heights or anything like that. So
100%. And as you can see during this interview, I am not the most eloquent speaker. I trip over my words. I talk fast. I talk with my hands. I forget what I was talking about. So, and that's been one of the things that I had to kind of overcome, that challenge that I have to overcome. And it's just, like you said, that hopefully the passion comes out of it. And you can hear that I'm passionate about the field, the people that are in it, what we do. I may always not say it the right way or do the best job bringing it out of my mouth. My brain sometimes goes faster than my mouth does, but I think you make it extremely comfortable. It's like two buddies just sitting in a coffee shop having a chat about it. And so I thank you for giving me the opportunity.
Yeah, that's exactly what this is. It's just a relaxed conversation about what you love. And I can tell you, in content creation, especially with AI coming out, if we're looking for perfect, sterile, articulate speech with big vocabularies that's on complex terms, AI is getting rid of the smoke every human out there creating content. What you're really looking for is just being authentic, being real. And that's what you've done very well, Chad, is you've just been real and authentic. And I am who I am. You can accept me. And so when people see you, they're going to see a reflection of themselves, because we can only be our authentic selves. If we try to be somebody else, it's always going to let us down. And as this content online just gets more edited and refined and perfected, and eventually I'll be a complete AI and you won't even tell the difference between me and a computer. We are craving the real and the authentic, which is what life is. It's what goes to bed. It's what wakes up. It's what's hurts and in pain and stuff. And so I actually prefer, and that's why I always go live. I like live content. I like unedited content. And I like people like yourself that are willing to just come and tell us what you're in love with and why you love it. To me, that's the content that people are craving.
Well, I had a blast doing it.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate your time coming out here. We need to do this again, and we definitely have to stay in touch. I'm gonna
Yes,
hit you up
absolutely.
on LinkedIn for the YPN stuff because, man, Gabby and Molly are just some rock stars, and I want to make sure that we do something good for that industry, and we'll just use this platform right here that we're building in the Daily Parks and Rec show to have a YPN segment because that's the young guys coming in, and I want to give them as much as we can.
Yeah, well, like I said, we can't thank you enough, as somebody that's in the field, to giving us the opportunity to kind of amplify what we do out there and to give us that
Yeah.
chance to say our passion and share it with other people.
Well, I'm hooked, so I'll be here probably until y'all are cutting the grass on top of me.
Well, I'm in. You need anything, you let me know. I'll come in.
I will do. Thank you so much, Chad. You have a good weekend.
Anytime. Thank you. Same
Yep.
to you.
Take care.
You
Bye.
too.
All right, man, that was an awesome interview. Chad's just a great guy. That's the kind of people you meet in Parks and Rec. That's the kind of man you become after giving yourself and dedicating your life to service, working with kids. That's what kids will make of you. And believe me, his job is not easy, but it's fulfilling. Think about like the mountain climber. They don't climb Mount Everest because it's easy. It's because it's you become a mountain climber. The mountain makes you the mountain climber. And so it's a lot of times about the journey, and it's about what that journey makes of you in the process. So you can see men like Chad that over the years have just been molded by the little summer camps and the chaos of all the obstacles that are coming through an entire summer of this, and then summer after summer, year after year. And you throw on top of that the special events and the senior centers and the aquatics and everything. And so you end up having these very versatile leaders that can handle all sorts of adversity on weekends, on weekdays, and you have adversity that teenagers will give you. You have adversities that the elderly will give you, that the politicians will give you, because you're kind of running their park system for them, and it's a very forward-facing role. And so you can imagine the type of person you would become as you dedicate your life to a career of handling adversity. And when I say handling adversity, I forget which one of my guests said this, but they're like, when you go to the police department, typically something's not good. Fire department, same thing. But when you come to parks, it's typically a good experience. You're there to spend time with your kids at a park. You're there to go meet your elderly friends. You're there to maybe coach a little baseball team or watch your kid play ball or drop your kid off at summer camp. And a lot of times, certainly everything has, your experiences that are a little troubling. But for the most part, you're just handing out hours and hours and days and years after years of good experiences to people. They're getting in shape. They're making friends. They're, like Chad said, you're watching the first pop fly catch the first home run. Kids are learning how to swim. You're seeing picnics and wedding proposals and you name it, all happening right under your watch. You get to orchestrate this. You get to work in this environment and lead in your community, making a difference, leaving a legacy. What a tremendous industry. Really having me question my life as not being. I was very close to this industry, but I guess you could say I did work in it. I did cut grass when I was very young. It was my only summer job. Shout out to Mr. Raggi. He's up in heaven. But he was my park and rec director in West Baton Rouge Parish. We call them parishes in Louisiana. And of course I was big into sports and stuff, and I coached a lot. So, but seeing this industry and how passionate they are, I'll say this: if you work in Parks and Rec, you get more than just a dollar figure paycheck. They get paid, and they usually get paid pretty good because they're professionals. They have great benefits, but in addition to that paycheck, they have all these other benefits. So they might get like 10 paychecks. One, of course, is the dollars, and the next one might be the benefits. But then they get this gratitude, the sense of purpose, the sense of fulfillment, the sense of legacy, making a difference in their community. They get to protect and beautify their city. Every week, they're getting these payments, these deposits into them, and not to mention they're being molded by the environment that they're in. Now, you could also be molded by maybe a more toxic, profit-driven environment that pays you maybe 10% more, but what you're trading your soul for it, and you're not making any difference, and you're just like in this meat grinder, and you're usually behind a desk or cubicle. So if quality of life, the difference you're making, the impact you're making is important to you, you really got to take a hard look at this industry, because a lot of times that extra little paycheck leaves you feeling hollow and empty and questioning, what am I doing with my time? And your time is something you can't get anything more of. And you don't want to wait till you're retired to make an impact and your life is spent. Why don't you just make an impact, spend your days from your 20s all the way to retirement, feeling like that you're making a difference in kids' life and in your community's life. This is such an easy industry to pitch to kids coming in. This is a no-brainer. I think all we have to do is just, we don't have to defend this lion. We just got to let it out the cage and just tell the world what it is. And I think you're going to see a lot of people flocking to it. So please consider helping us build this network. Of course, y'all know that I used to manufacture LED lights. I owned a company there, retired from that, threw it all into Bitcoin, did very well into that. I also do a Bitcoin podcast at night because it's my second passion. So if you want to learn more about that, all of you should be into it. But that's where I discovered my passion for creating media. And I just reflected the whole time when I was around these Bitcoiners making media. I was like, okay, Parks and Rec needs to do this. This is going to be their next stage. And even if I got to do it myself, I'm going to help them launch and make this media arm of Parks and Rec. And so if you'd like to help us, if you'd like to help me and Chad or Molly and Gabby make something for YPN, I'm very active on LinkedIn. Please reach out to me there. We'd love to have y'all's input. If you'd like to help us make another wave of videos or participate in that creation process, we have a lot of very talented content creators that really think of them as the artists you hire to paint your family portrait, but you've got to tell them, how do you want them to be painted? If it's a yard, if it's out maybe by the piano, whatever. We just show up. Chris just shows up with his paintbrush and his canvas, and then you have to kind of dial him in. So I really want more people participating in the video content creation as possible. If you're in YPN, you want to get involved. We want to create at least a weekly show. We're having conversations in that right now. I think we're having a Zoom meeting next Friday. So hit me up on LinkedIn. And then, of course, if you're on the fence and you're a director, take a chance to come tell this world why you've dedicated your life and career to something that means so much to you. And don't doubt that your heart knows exactly how to express what it's in love with. Don't let that stage fright silence your voice. I think you need to get up here and encourage people to follow in your footsteps, because you really have a treasure of an industry, and you shouldn't be afraid to speak up for it on its behalf, because there could be some little girl or guy that's kind of on the fence or lost and not knowing what they want to dedicate their life to. And do you really want them dedicating their life to a cubicle, grinding their soul out for the next 30 years? Or would you rather them being with you shoulder to shoulder, making a difference in their community? I think that's a compelling reason to get involved and to speak up and let the world know all about Parks and Rec. So come on the show. Give me some people that might be willing to come on the show. And if you can support us in any way by buying one of our LED lights or having one of our social media managers help you in your community, please reach out to me on LinkedIn. This is Craig LeBlanc, the doorman with the Daily Parks and Rec Show. Thank y'all so much for allowing me to serve this community by helping y'all be a voice out there. And let me know what else we can do to make this better for y'all. Love you guys. You'll have an awesome weekend. Thanks a lot, Chad. I'll take care. Bye.
When you invest in our high-performance LED sports arena lights, you're not just upgrading your facilities, you're helping us illuminate the untold stories of parks and recreation communities. Every purchase directly supports the Daily Parks and Rec Show, a media platform on a mission to celebrate the heart and soul of our local parks and programs. From after-school activities to summer leagues, these spaces shape lives, and their stories deserve to be told. Why your support matters. Capturing community impact. Your contribution helps us assemble a talented team of digital artists, storytellers, and filmmakers to create compelling videos, articles, and short films that spotlight how Parks and Rec programs change lives. Sharing untold stories. From a child's first home run to lifelong friendships forged on the court, we'll document these priceless moments and share them with the world. Inspiring the next generation. By highlighting the joy, inclusivity, and opportunities found in our parks, we foster a deeper appreciation for these vital community spaces. Light up arenas, brighten futures. Your choice to install LED sports arena lights isn't just a smart investment in energy efficiency and performance, it's an investment in stories that deserve to be told. Be part of the story. Take action today. Purchase LED sports arena lights and help us shine a spotlight on the heartwarming stories that define our parks and communities. Contact us now to learn more about our products and how your support fuels the Daily Parks and Rec show. Together, we'll shine a light on the moments that matter most.